Well, I'm back from vacation and it's time for an update on our novel Civil War. This one for September 25th, 2020. And I want to talk about two things that have already happened and how I think they're setting the ground for the third thing, which may well happen. So let's get right to it. The first thing I want to talk about is the letter from the Department of Education announcing that it's investigating Princeton University. Now, I've already addressed this in a video, which I'll link to up here and below in the description. So I won't go into great detail on this, but what I do want to say as a follow-up is that since that was announced, I haven't seen Princeton back down. I haven't seen any other universities back down. In fact, I've seen several more universities come out and say, we too are racist. And I don't know where this is going to go. My reading of this is that none of these schools, Princeton included, are going to do anything until after the election. They're all just, you might say, bidening their time, pardon the pun, to wait to see if Joe wins. And if he wins, they know that the Democrats will be in power and this is all going to go away. But if Trump is reelected, then they're going to have to address this one way or the other. Otherwise, they may well lose some of their federal funding, and they can't afford to do that. This is a presidential memorandum of 2 September 2020 on reviewing the funding to state and local government recipients that are permitting anarchy, violence, and destruction in American cities. This is issued by the Trump administration. This was followed up about 3 weeks later by the Department of Justice circular identifying New York City, Portland, and Seattle as jurisdictions permitting violence and destruction of property. Basically, it goes through a bunch of things that all these cities have done and many other cities have also done. But I think Portland, Seattle, and New York City are the most obvious examples of it. And again, what it gets down to here is not allowing the federal government to help out, not asserting authority, not protecting people's rights, not executing local and federal law, and you're hindering the exercise thereof, which means all these cities and potentially other cities are liable under this for further federal action, in this case, holding up money. But I think there's something else. There's another trump card, if you will, that the Trump administration has yet to play. That's what I want to talk about next. This leads me to what I consider to be the Trump administration's ace. And it's an ace that they're not going to play until after the election. I think the hope is that when they win, and I think they believe they're going to win, I believe they're going to win and win big, that schools like Princeton will back down, declaring themselves racist, take a new course, and that cities like Seattle, Portland, and New York and others will adjust their policies. Because if they don't, I would say looking at the DOJ initiative, the groundwork's already been laid for this. And this, if you don't know it, is generally known as the Insurrection Act. This is 10253 USC. And let me just read to you what it says. The president, by using the militia of the armed forces or both or by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress in a state any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy, if it, 1, so hinders the execution of the laws of a state and of the United States within the state that any part or class of its people is deprived of a right, privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution and secured by law, and the constituted authorities of a state are unable, fail, or refuse to protect that right, privilege, or immunity, or to give it protection, or opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States or impedes the course of justice under those laws. In any situation covered by Clause 1, the state shall be considered to have denied the equal protection of the laws secured by the Constitution. Now, if you read those 2 points, 1 and 2, and you go back and you look at what the Justice Department had to say about Portland, Seattle, and New York, you'll see they've already laid the groundwork for this. Because all those cities and others have already done those things. They're denying people, when you deny, property is a right in this country. When you allow people's property to be destroyed, you're denying people a protection of their property, of a constitutional right. Same thing, to be safe in their homes, in their places of business. And if you fail to put these things down, you fail to protect these rights, you fail to accept federal assistance in doing that, then I think the Trump administration can come back and play this card, play the Insurrection Act. Now, the Insurrection Act, I know the left would go ballistic if the Trump administration used this and say, oh my God, what are they doing? But remember, the Insurrection Act has been around since the 1790s. It's been employed many times, even in my own lifetime. I think it was employed in the 50s in Little Rock with the school desegregation. It was employed in 1968 with the riots there. And may have been employed other times too. So it's really not, something that's never been done before. It's been done many times, even in my lifetime. And I think the groundwork's all there. What I believe the Trump administration is just waiting for is to see if after the election, assuming Trump wins, if these cities don't draw the proper conclusions and start putting down, trying to control better this unrest in their own jurisdictions. Because if they don't, I think the next step for the Trump administration is to play U.S. Code 10253, the Insurrection Act, against, they'll probably pick one city first. It might be Portland. That would be a good target, and go in there and use this. They can federalize the National Guard. They can even send federal troops. Eisenhower sent federal troops into Little Rock to bring about, law and order, however you want to term it, but to protect people's rights under the Constitution, not just the rights of the protesters, but the rights of the people whose businesses are being burned down, whose stores are being looted, whose homes are being attacked, whose neighborhoods are being disrupted. All these people have rights, not just the protesters. And it's the city's responsibility to protect all the rights, not just the rights of the protesters. And they're not doing that. And I think the next step is for the Trump administration, after the election, to implement the Insurrection Act against probably one city just to get started and to demonstrate that they mean business. Let me know what you think in a comment. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button so you know when I post new videos, and share it with your friends. And until the next time, stand up to the resistance and keep fighting.